back into the Fourth Man Pod. Thank you guys for joining us again. As always, I'm Anthony, and I'm alongside the best Big 3 account in the entire universe, Big3 N3ws, a.k.a. Will. Happy to be back because we have a great episode today. We're seeing the Big 3 getting on social, doing their thing, and starting to post and kind of get people hyped up. But first and foremost, to my great co-host, Will, how you doing over there?
I'm doing fantastic. I will tell you what, though. I'm actually not doing fantastic. Actually very sick. And I know when you tell people that you're sick in the middle of a pandemic, that raises some eyebrows. That raises a little bit of alarm bells.
2 eyebrows.
Rest assured, I do not have the Rona. I do not have Corona, COVID-19, Rona, Modelo, whatever you decide to call it. I do not have it. I think I have something in some form of an allergy to something. Hopefully to the change in weather. That is my medical diagnosis. But needless to say, the stars were a little bit, what is the opposite of aligning? Do you know?
De-aligning?
Messy? Well, it's almost like the stars were aligning for chaos. Where, if you're looking at the title of this video, or if you're not viewing this basically on Anywhere But Dash, you know that this is probably one of our biggest interviews. I mean, this is a top 5 interview today.
No doubt.
I'm confident, since we are recording this after the interview, I'm confident that this was my flu game.
Oh, 100%. You killed it.
We both killed it. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We both killed it. And I am probably going to be asleep in 15 minutes. So congratulations to both of us. This is a Big 3 podcast, so let's talk about the Big 3.
100%. But before we even do that, as always, if you want to find the show on social, it's at Fourth Man Pod, and obviously at Big3 N3ws. If you want to find my personal handle, it's at @A_Siggy. And for those of you tuning in on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel for the first time, or for the second, third, or fourth, fifth time, we appreciate you guys as always listening on there.
From the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's
people who have tuned in every
single week on Dash Radio, whether it be on our original nights on Wednesdays or now on our scheduled nights on Saturdays. We appreciate it nonetheless. And like Will said, we got a great interview, but let's talk Big 3 first, because the Big 3 is starting to kind of ramp up their posting a little bit and their excitement and anticipation for the league that took a break this past year because of the pandemic. And a big question they asked is, who do you want to see? They put a post with about 7 players on there, who a lot of them we speculated on. Our guy Shane 2K has done a few Big 3 pleas on. Yeah. And it's just kind of, I figured, we kind of figured together, let's dive into these guys. Let's see if there's potential opportunity for these guys, and, maybe some names that we haven't heard of or been excited about. I feel like a lot of people that in the comment section were talking about a couple of these guys that we haven't really hyped up too much. So let's start first and foremost, I guess, with our guy Dwayne Wade, who we've continuously talked about.
Absolutely. And so before I even respond to Dwayne Wade, for people who are listening at home, if you want to see what it is we're talking about, just go to the Big 3's IG page. And as of about 7 o'clock at night on December 4th, this was the last thing the Big 3 posted. So just check out. It's just a collage of all these players. But yeah, Dwayne Wade, I mean, we've said it before, so I'm not going to retract too much, but, I think this is his off season. And I think that I'm happy that the Big 3 recognizes. I think this is likely. I think this is going to happen.
Ooh. I have to agree with you. I'm feeling more and more confident now, depending on the situation we have in the summer of 2021. Makes the situation a little bit volatile, but nonetheless, I think there's, just like we talked about Melo a couple off seasons ago, I think this is the summer of Dwayne Wade. So we'll continue to monitor his status. A few other guys.
I'll tell you what, and I'm glad you brought up Melo because I wanted to bring that up. I think that Melo was always, is he going to go to he should use the Big 3 to get back to the NBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wade, so we knew Melo was playing basketball, but it almost made it less likely because the NBA was in the mix. Wade, I don't believe Wade's going to go back to the NBA. I don't think he has plans to. Yeah. Really, I think at this point it's between the Big 3 and the TBT. And as we saw with a couple of guys, and most recently Michael Cooper, who's going to be coaching the TBT, I think it's in some guys' plans to maybe do both. How those
Yeah.
seasons are going to overlap, we don't know because the Big Three hasn't made their season official, nor has the TBT. But I think it's absolutely, I think it's likely, and I think it's a good
I think
sign
it's
that
in
the
the
Big Three
cards.
recognizes that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Michael Cooper is going to be coaching the New Mexico alumni team, which is going to be super cool to see. But it's also going to be cool if he's coaching, a Big Three team, opposite ends of the spectrums there. So we'll see how that all plays out there. Speaking of another guy named Michael, one we recently just did a Big Three play on, Michael Beasley. Michael Beasley's a name that I've continued to seen people hype up. We've seen more video about him hooping and going one-on-one against a lot of guys. What do we think of Michael Beasley's chances, as we get closer to the end of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I think Michael Beasley belongs on an NBA roster.
Me too.
I mean, people forget how young he is. I mean, is he 30?
30, 31, something like
30,
that.
31. That's so
early stages of
I
his
mean,
30.
if he joined the Big Three, I think he would be an incredible player. I think all he would have to do is just get the ball either in the post, or it's also to somebody that can sort of bring it out, handle the ball a little bit. But honestly, Michael Beasley, I think, is somebody that we've known players have communicated with in the past about joining.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it was trending towards the right direction before the 2020 season got canceled. So again, I don't know where he's at in his life. I don't know what players are, who was it specifically that was in contact with him? Was it DeMar Johnson?
It was DeMar, yes.
Yeah.
So
I think basically, at this point too, a lot of international, even like in Asia, I don't know what's going on with the CBA. I don't even know if the CBA is happening right now. But I think the Big Three becomes a lot more, because of everything that's happened. I think the Big Three becomes a lot of a better option for people, especially Americans, right? Especially people who have family in the United States and who are looking to play. So I think Michael Beasley is very likely. I think Michael Beasley, it would behoove him to join the Big Three, because I think it would be a legitimate shot at a platform to return to the NBA on some sort of minimum contract.
Mm-hmm. Here's what I like about Michael Beasley and his chances, and why I think the Big Three is very suiting for him. We obviously know what kind of offensive bag he's got, whether it's back to the basket, one-on-one, whatever the case may be. He's able to stretch the floor, whatever. I think this is a good opportunity for him to improve his defense. We know how hard defense is in this league. You're really one-on-one on an island in here. Whether it be on the ball or off the ball, let's improve that thing, because we know how much 3-and-D players are highly rated in the NBA. We know how many teams like versatility and for guys to be able to switch from guards to bigs. And I think Michael Beasley has a chance to do that if he continues to improve his game defensively as well as it is offensively. So I think that's a lot of what the Big Three could offer for Michael Beasley if he were to join. I think it would really help him continue to broaden his game a little bit and be more of an asset for NBA teams that, just as recently as the bubble, the Brooklyn Nets, if he doesn't test positive for COVID, who knows what
he's
could
on
happen.
that team, and he's getting legitimate minutes on that team. And I think that from a Big Three perspective, Michael Beasley is somebody that you can build a team around, or he is most notably or definitely the second option on a championship Big Three team.
Yes, I think so too.
For sure. No doubt in my mind.
I think so too.
I'm not going to say you can build a team around him, because I've never seen him in the Big Three. And I would say that about most people who have never played in the Big Three. But Michael Beasley's for sure the second option. If your second best player is Michael Beasley, then you're a championship contender in my mind.
Yes, I agree. I think if he joins a team like Three's Company, that's a team that you look out for to make a championship run.
Yeah, for sure.
Another guy they listed on here was recent retiree Andrew Bogut. Andrew Bogut's an interesting name for the Big Three. I think it's someone that we might have hinted at before. Maybe you brought up his name once in a conversation, but Andrew Bogut feels like he'd be the perfect big man to join. His ability to facilitate, rebound, play defensively. I haven't seen him play in a few years, obviously, and he was playing in Australia when LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton were there. But
I think he won MVP, or maybe he won a championship.
He won an MVP, I think.
Recently.
Yeah, if not last year, he won recently. But
Yeah.
I really like the idea of Andrew Bogut in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I like it too, Anthony, but I don't see it happening.
I don't think I do either.
I have a major hesitation with these foreign guys, and
Well,
even Andrew Bogut, Australian. I just feel like, you know, it's the summer, so I mean, maybe he's going to escape the winter in Australia and he's going to come, but that's months long commitment. So I feel like someone that isn't maybe primarily living in the United States. I don't know what Andrew Bogut's living situation is like, but I would imagine most recently he was playing in Australia, so I'd imagine that he's living there with his family. I don't know.
well, he went back home. He retired from the NBA to go back home and
Right.
play in Australia. So I have to imagine that he's probably not looking to get up and go somewhere just for the summer to play. Who knows? Maybe he gets the itch to play basketball. I don't know how these guys feel if they retire and are like, oh, I'm just done with basketball. I just don't love the game anymore, or at least preparing to play anymore.
Right.
Or maybe it's just like I just feel like I can't play as many games. But I think Andrew Bogut's unlikely, but it would be fun to see him in the league for sure. And
No, it would definitely be fun.
one guy, a lot of people, and I think this is probably the name that we saw the most in the comment section today of this Big 3 post, was the great Manu Ginobili.
Manu.
And another guy I feel like is a little unlikely. And I think I've seen even before this post, a lot of people would be like, oh, we'd love to see the Big 3 of Manu, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. We obviously know how Kenyon Martin feels about Tony Parker at this point.
Right.
That would not be the first question he asked him. But Manu, I think Manu would be great in this league too. But I think he's another guy that, unfortunately, as many people that want to see him, it's a little bit unlikely that he would be in the Big 3. Could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong. But
Well, I mean, let me see. I mean, judging off of Manu Ginobili's recent Instagram activity, I think he's still in the United States.
is he?
I mean, let me see this, because he does a lot of like hiking stuff. It's like that one thing's in Colorado, and then where is this? This is in Texas. So he appears to be, at least he was on a extended vacation in the United States, going hiking to all these different national parks and everything. Like, this picture is him with Tim Duncan, who we know was in the United States because he was with the Spurs. So that's somebody.
Maybe it's not as unlikely.
That's someone who I almost would say that this is more likely than Andrew Bogut.
Okay, I was going to say.
Because I think Manu, because what I mean, I can only go off of what they're doing right now, and Manu Ginobili is in the United States. Bogut, I don't believe he is, and especially with all these COVID travel restrictions, maybe that's why Manu's in the United States, because he got quote unquote stuck here. And then maybe the Big 3 will be happening right around when things start to open back up again, and then he's just going to be like, I'm going to go home to Argentina because I haven't been there in a while, maybe. But him making that travel, or anybody, especially like Australia, but even Argentina, making that travel every week, just for a Big 3 game and then going back, seems a little unlikely what these people are going to do. So, but I mean, if Manu's in the United States, I would love to see Manu.
Yeah, why not? If you're stuck here, might as well be hooping. Yeah, I love Manu.
I love Manu so much. So he would be a fantastic addition. So that's one that I'm really hoping happens. But
yes,
my same thing with Bogut. I don't know.
So the 4 other guys that they put on this post are guys that we've touched on at some point throughout the show, and especially throughout our speculation season since 2019. Jamal Crawford, J.R. Smith, Lance Stevenson, Vince Carter. Out of those 4, who do you feel like is the most likely?
I think Lance. I think Lance is,
I think so too.
Close to a done deal. I think Vince is going to be a TV guy, so I don't think he's really looking to play. He's also too. He would be one of the older players in the Big 3 already.
Yeah, like right off the jump.
JR, I think JR is a good name definitely to put out there, but I've never heard anything about JR from anybody that we've talked to. I've heard things about other people that we've mentioned on this list, but no one's ever brought up J.R. Smith. So it's very possible he's just one phone call away, or maybe somebody who's going to be a captain. Like for instance, right? Have we ever heard anything about Mo Spates before he was named a captain bivouac?
No, we did not.
No,
But
we didn't. So that's definitely something. So it's definitely likely, but I've never heard anything about JR, and I still think that at this time, his aspirations are probably to play in the NBA. And
just
then
like
as far as
Jamal.
right, and so then that's the other thing too. Jamal Crawford, I was under the impression that Jamal Crawford was going to be a Brooklyn Net this season. That's what it
I was
seemed
too.
like. It was looking like. I think Jamal Crawford even like. I don't want to misquote the guy, but I thought there was at least almost something where somebody was like, "Oh, we'll see you next season," like after the bubble, like about Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford's like, "I'll see you guys next season," and everyone's like, "All right, so Jamal Crawford's coming back." But that
That
does
doesn't seem
not
to.
seem to
He
be the
hasn't been
case.
signed yet, right? I mean, what was his
No,
deal that he signed with for the bubble? Just a rest of the season type contract?
it was just a bubble contract. Yeah,
Okay, and he hasn't been re-signed yet. And that
hasn't
could
been
be
re-signed.
that the Nets are still trying to work out the you know current trades or free agent signings
Right.
that they had going on, and they're not done deals yet, or trying to figure out the paperwork for everything. But I would be in. The biggest thing about Jamal Crawford that we heard from DeMar Johnson was that he didn't want to come back after his last game with the Suns. He scored like 50 points. Okay, well now his last game was with the Brooklyn Nets for 5 minutes or so. And while he definitely was showing flashes, it's definitely not the ending I think that he expected, especially signing just a bubble contract where he was expected to play, probably a bigger role
Right.
than he could have for any other team, for the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs. So I kind of like looking at this I kind of want to say Jamal Crawford just because if a team doesn't sign him, and I still think he should be on an NBA team, I can't imagine that he wants to have his last game go from 50 points with the Suns to an injury debut 5 minutes into his Brooklyn Nets career and just call it quits there. I could be wrong, but I kind of like Jamal Crawford's chances a lot more than I ever have speculating on him.
I agree. I think the chances really increased based off of everything that happened with the Nets in the bubble for the exact reason that you said, and for the exact reason that DeMar told us
Yeah.
in the interview that we did with him a while back. So it'd be interesting to see. Maybe Jamal Crawford is just like, I went out there, I got hurt. I don't want to go through that again. But he doesn't strike me as that type of guy. He strikes me as someone that's going to want to play. So I would love to see him in the Big Three. I think he's a very well respected player. I think he's like one of the guys where I think he could go to any team, and we'd be like, oh, that makes sense because of the connection there.
Yeah.
Right, and you can't say that about a ton of guys.
No,
So
you can't.
it would be absolutely awesome to see Jamal Crawford, and again, he's another one where I really hope that happens because I think it would be a fun addition. To the
Yeah,
league.
I think so too. I think he just makes the league a lot more fun to watch. I think it brings a lot of eyes to the league. A lot of jersey sales probably for Jamal Crawford.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of Jamal Crawford truthers out there and has been for a long time. But I do think Lance Stevenson is the biggest lock. His connection with Andre Owens,
I agree.
he just looks like he's going to be a future alien at some point. Just a matter of when, not if. Kind of like Swaggy P with enemies and Gilbert
Isn't it
Arenas.
funny that they didn't even put Swaggy P on the thing?
Oh, I know.
That's how I feel like how much of a lock this is.
He's probably like, if you're looking at guys who are the closest to joining the Big Three, 1 through 10, like Swaggy P is number one.
Swaggy P is number one. My own head, I consider Swaggy P a member of the Big Three.
Yeah, you consider him a member of enemies. I'm just waiting for him to put on that jersey.
110%. It's happening.
I think he's going to be a co-captain. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I also think, too, that if they do bring the announcement of him joining before the reality show, if they do plan to still do that, I think he'd be a perfect fit for that reality show.
Oh, that's where I hope he makes his debut.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And we talked about that with Josiah a little bit about how just incredible like those personalities would be because that's someone who just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So no,
yeah,
it would be so it would be awesome to see.
Yep.
For sure.
100%.
And listen, that's what we hope. I was really hoping that the first half of this episode would be us breaking down the Big 3 announcement that Jeff teased last week, but it hasn't come yet. So with our luck, it'll come out when the episode debuts tomorrow.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have to do an emergency episode. I don't know, but I'm just hoping that announcement gives us something that we can sort of latch on to for a little bit.
Yeah, me too. But maybe Jeff's saving us some news for Christmas. Maybe that's his Christmas present from
I hope so,
him
man.
to us. Hey, 2020 hasn't been so great. Guess what I got you guys, though? A whole box of news. So, anyways, we'll just have to continue to watch out. It looks like the Big 3 is continuing to post more because they are getting ready to announce something. So hopefully this is the case. I would turn on those notifications.
Revved up, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of the league, I would turn on those notifications. Make sure you got that bell on so, whenever they post, you can be ready for some exciting news. But that's all we got for you at the first half of this. We have a great interview with Josiah Johnson. Most of you guys know him as King Josiah 54, the meme king of NBA Twitter, whatever the case may be. Had a great sit down with him, and we were super appreciative of him to be able to spare some of his time and talk with us. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to our podcast on, and of course on YouTube. Like the videos. And please, 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 we're begging for feedback. We love feedback.
Yes, please comment.
It only betters us. Comment, leave a review, whatever the case may be, good, bad. We just want to continue to be able to put out the best content for you guys. So
let's do this too. If you don't really have anything to comment, you're like, I'm fine with everything it is. Tell us some guys who you would love to see join the Big 3.
Yes.
And that could be somebody that perhaps is joining next year or in 5 years or in 10 years. If you want to see John Morant in the Big 3, let us know. That would be an interesting talking point,
Ja comes out tomorrow. I've decided to retire from the Grizzlies early on in my career. Is he even old enough? I'm just thinking that John Morant's not even old enough, is he?
I think they would make an exception.
He's like, I've decided that in 3 years I'm going to retire and go ahead and join the Big 3. So let's make this the best
2K.
big.
You ever retired early in 2K?
I've always seen that option. I'm like,
I'm just bored of this. There's nothing left to offer me. Like, you played 14 games.
It's like rather than start a new career, let's just go ahead and click the retire button and just never turn this thing back on.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but please leave feedback. We love it. Comment on any of the social pages on YouTube, and let's get to the Josiah Johnson. Today we had the absolute pleasure of being joined by producer, content creator, writer, and internet royalty, King Josiah 54. Appreciate you coming on, chopping it up with us. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and thanks for letting me come on the show and come and kick it with y'all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're super hyped up for this, and let's just start kind of with a general question here. You kind of have a storied career, already up to this point, son of a former NBA All-Star, played basketball at UCLA, and now you're producing content and creating it everywhere. But looking back, going into UCLA and you're getting ready for school and about to play basketball, what did you envision for your career? Could you have ever imagined like it ended up being this way, or is this kind of how you always thought it would go?
I mean, obviously, I think, going into college, everybody kind of, has the dreams of going to the NBA and being the next LeBron or MJ or whatever it may be. But for me, I kind of learned very quickly. I was playing with guys like Matt Barnes and Dan Gadzarich and Jason Capono and just, Earl Watson, playing with like 13, 14 pros, and you got to really see the difference between like what my body and my skill set look like versus like what a pro body and a pro skill set look like every day in practice and in games and stuff like that. So for me, I kind of knew somewhere along the lines that, I might be able to go play overseas or go do something like that, but I wasn't going to have a long career in basketball. So I'd always been fascinated and interested in entertainment. Grew up in Los Angeles, obviously got to have a lot of experiences growing up to really kind of open my eyes and show me that world. So had always been interested in that. Didn't really know how I was going to get into what I was going to do. I think from the basketball standpoint, I had opportunities to maybe go play in like France, where I kind of got citizenship in places like that. But, I saw my older brother do that. He was kind of a vagabond internationally, played in Russia, Turkey, Lebanon, just literally all over. And it was a great experience, but it was almost like, we didn't get to see him 7-8 months out of the year. So I didn't really want to sacrifice and leave the States and be in a place where I don't speak the language. And,
Right.
I'm part French, but I know French people are assholes, and that's not, I've been there enough times to know it's a real thing.
You're speaking the truth.
They're just assholes.
One day in Paris I spent, and I instantly got that vibe. As soon as you get off the plane, it's like, okay, well, it's not anything like the States here.
They're not bad people, but it's like almost kind of like they're all like New Yorkers or whatever, like going people who just like have no time or patience for anything that you have to do or whatever, no consideration. So I knew I didn't want to do that. So I kind of realized at UCLA, probably my second year, I'd worked super hard in the off season, worked out with Jason Capono all off season, got my body right. And then, literally just played a little bit and I was kind of, in on the bench, and I was like, all right, well, I got to get my life together, figure some other shit out. Thankfully, I was interested in entertainment, things like that, and that experience being a bench warmer at UCLA got me a TV show on Comedy Central. So I'd say I made the most of it. I think that's what I encourage everybody to do in life. Like, you may not be the starter or play the whole game, but make the most of whatever situation you're in.
100%.
Yeah, so I guess too. So let's talk about that. So I was put on to your content, which I think a lot of other people on Comedy Central, Legends of Chamberlain Heights. When that show was on, I absolutely loved that show. What sort of is the background into? Because I can imagine it's probably not easy. So what is that like? Getting a cartoon together and getting it on, a cable network and things like that. What goes on behind the scenes?
I mean, to be honest, everybody sees it and they see, like, the show came on in 2016, first season we aired after South Park. They see that moment, but they don't realize we had worked on the thing for like nearly a decade. Like, honestly, we had started like a little bit after I graduated college. I graduated in 05. I think we started like 09-ish. Like, I was running a website with a couple of my buddies called Jersey Chase, where we were doing a lot of off-kilter content, a lot of stuff you kind of see in the NBA Twitter space now, but it was, years and years ahead of its time. So that stuff performed well. And then we ended up getting the attention to some guys that worked in animation. And they got Mike Clements, who had a company with Tom Werner. And Tom Werner's the man, obviously owns the Red Sox, Liverpool, just, big bank, big stack. But so they reached out, sent us a cold email to the website account, saw a video that we had posted. We did like a LeBron and Kobe puppet parody for Nike when they were supposed to meet each other in the finals, and made it like super raunchy. We were big LeBron guys at that point. So dropped that video. They got in contact with us. Turns out Mike lived like a mile away from where we live. We were still in UCLA, kind of living our glory days out, after college, kind of adjusting to the real world and life and things like that. So ended up meeting with them, pitched the idea. They initially like presented us an idea on LeBron James and trying to do a show around him. And we're kind of like, like LeBron is too concerned with his brand and things like that. He's not going to let us, be out of pocket and get as ridiculous as we want to get. So we pitched them just on the concept of like, what, we sat on the bench at UCLA. We used to like, be at these games talking shit and just hanging out and doing whatever. Their eyes lit up. So this was like 2009. From there, we get Michael Starberry, who's one of the most talented writers in the game. He was nominated for an Emmy for When They See Us with Ava DuVernay. I just did a show with them called Colin in Black and White on Colin Kaepernick that's coming out. But this is like 2010. Starberry was making his name on the comedy side, had a pilot at Comedy Central. So they ended up linking us up with him. He came in and helped us develop the show, really, make it a show, take an idea and really make it a show. Then we went out, started pitching it. Started in 2009. We didn't pitch it till 2013. So if that gives you some context of how long this shit takes, like, didn't pitch it till 2013. Comedy Central loved it, bought it. From 2013 to like 2015, we developed the show, put together a pilot, everything like that. By 2015, the pilot was ready. Comedy Central loved the pilot, ordered a series, and then we started production, I think, in the summer of 2015 to air in 2016. Ended up getting 2 seasons. It was the time of my life. I think I'm sad now because I've got such a big following in the NBA Twitter space, and the NBA Twitter community has grown so much. The show is probably 2 or 3 years ahead of its time. So we kind of, if it was operating now in this window, I think the out-of-pocketness and how ratchet we would be able to get with it would have been off the charts. But here we are.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because that was a question that I had written down I was going to ask you, because when you watch that show, even now, it's so similar. It's almost eerily similar to the comedy that's on NBA Twitter. Like, the scene for me from that show that always, that I always think of is with Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher, when they're like killer robots and they're like fighting each other and everything. And I feel like again, I think you were absolutely ahead of its time. Do you think that, maybe not a rerun of Legend of Chamberlain Heights or bring that back, but maybe a different show? Do you ever think of maybe giving it another shot, given the fact how big NBA Twitter has become?
I think, look, deep down in the bottom of my heart, I would love to see Legends come back, but the entertainment game is the game. I don't know if you guys saw that Chappelle special that just came out recently, but where he kind of goes into the inner workings of the game. So the game is the game. We do not own that show anymore. I would love to be able to take it to somewhere like an HBO Max or somewhere, in the streaming platforms now that, people are tuned in and really as a, you can find whatever topics you want to watch in a niche setting. But yeah, I'm always working on stuff. I've got a few things in the hopper right now that I'm super excited about. Like I said, I did a show with Netflix. That's more on a dramatic side, but looking at Colin Kaepernick's life in high school. And got some stuff developed in the comedy space, got an animated project that I'm working on. So I'm definitely trying to get back. I have some things in that space with some people that are well respected in the community. So I'm hoping that we can get this thing together, and 2021 should be a solid year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think we got some big things coming in 2021 after a pretty tumultuous year here in 2020. You said you're working on something with, in terms of the Colin Kaepernick docuseries that's supposed to release at some point here, I think in the near future. I know you probably can't say too much about it, obviously, because it hasn't been released, but what's it like working with, someone like Ava DuVernay, who over the past few years has really come onto the scene, people like Michael Starbury and that bunch?
I mean, Ava, honestly, is one of the most, she's a UCLA Bruin like myself. I've always just envied her and looked up to her and just loved her story and the way that she was able to do her things. But I think the thing that's really missed with Ava is how much she gives back and how much she's willing to, give opportunities to the people who normally wouldn't get the opportunities, tell stories that normally wouldn't get the opportunity to be told. So what she's been able to do with the Ray Filmworks, her production company, is really just honestly tremendous. So to be able to work with her and see her on a daily basis and just see what goes into, it's kind of like going into the sausage factory and seeing how everything is made and put together is just like, tremendous. And then obviously Michael Starbury, who's a buddy of mine. It's funny, we worked on Legends, which was obviously comedy out of pocket. This was a lot more serious. It's not a docuseries, it's a limited series. So it's literally, scripted. It's a scripted series that takes place, looks at Colin's life in high school. So I think, a lot of people think it's more documentaries. Like it's not, it's all just kind of, dramatization. I think they've kind of been beefing up the cast now. So they've got all that crew in place, but even being able to work with Colin, I think Colin is a tremendous human being, a guy who I've respected. It's funny, in 2016, I remember being at the Comedy Central Emmy party. This was probably like a week or two after you first started kneeling, and literally rocking the Cap jersey and kneeling in the photo on press row. And it was, to me, it was just seeing the way that, the risk he took and how important he thought it was and being able to sacrifice his career for something he believed in. Now, as we see as the years have gone on, it's kind of been exposed what was really behind all that. And, talking about a guy who's literally been blackballed by the NFL, we can say whatever we want. You'll see people on both sides. Well, he's not this or that. But it's like I've seen at least, 15 starting quarterbacks in the league every year that he's not been in it, that he's better than, that, he'll be, at least. And that's just being conservative with the numbers. So to be able to help Cap tell his story, and I think this thing is going to be great because it's going to really show a side of him that a lot of people don't understand. And, whether you love or hate him, you'll be able to get the perspective to understand who he was as a human being. But what he's been able to do off the field, his various charitable endeavors, and just who he is as a man and as a human being. I think I'm a better person for having met him and worked on this project. So I'm sincerely grateful to Ava, to Starbury, to Netflix, and just being able, for me, like everybody sees me as, the NBA Twitter guy that's just, kind of funny jokes on the TL, but there's a lot more layers and deeper stuff to it. So I'm excited to be able to show the world that.
No doubt.
Nice.
That's super inspiring too. And really cool. I feel like one thing that's really changed, at least here in 2020, is that we're really trying to, or I should say more people are really trying to take control of narratives, or their own narratives or other people's narratives, which I think is cool because for so long, there's media members and whoever else that's trying to pitch one thing or tell the best story. And it's like, that's not always the case. You don't really know the behind the scenes. So I think that's just another way that I think for Ava too, just with the Central Park 5 series she did on Netflix and all the other projects she's done, like you said, it's really, you're able to tell, how much she's really trying to give back with everything. One thing you did mention about working with Michael Starbury was the two different types of tones that you've had to work with them on, more of a dramatic one and more of a comedic one. And you kind of already, prepared yourself for that a little bit. You said you were doing the Jersey Chaser website, and then were also working in the media field there for like NFL Network and Fox and what's that. What was kind of that like to like balance and juggle that, more of a comedic tone and then more of a serious tone and vice versa?
Well, it's funny, I was living like a dual life at one point. So I was doing like my square, like sports network life. So I started out at Fox Sports and NFL Network. So I'm working at NFL Network, love working there. Got a ton of great friends. I got a ton of tremendous respect for the league, even despite some of the things they've done, right? I can be on both sides of it. But I worked with the NFL Network. I was there for like 10 years. So just, I think for me, just being able to balance those two things. And while I was working there, I was literally running Jersey Chaser, but it got to the point where Jersey Chaser just started out as like a fun thing me and a couple former teammates did, just as a way to bring balance to the force. To your point, we felt like, as a kid, I never realized when you used to hear stories and stuff, they were always reported from a slant, right? Even now, like when you hear news break, Woj has his sources, Shams has his sources, Chris Haynes has his sources, Taylor Rooks has her sources, all these people, because I have my sources. I'll hear about information before these people will, and just kind of sit back and watch it happen, just depending on who and how comfortable they are with you and things like that. So that's how you kind of learn and know how news is disseminated. So to see the way, narratives are distorted based on whatever, like you may hear a guy's a bad teammate because another guy's agent is bitter at him for whatever it may be. And it's kind of the same way in Hollywood too. So I understand both of those sides, but learning the jersey chaser stuff, and this is something I really implore and try and encourage a lot of young people who are trying to get in the game, who are like, well, how did you succeed or whatever? It's like there's no right or wrong way to do it. But for me, it was always, even if you look at my Twitter following, I got to leverage the things that I can control, that I can be responsible for, that I can do on my own, that don't have any outside forces telling me when, how, why I should change this, do that, or whatever. Because if I can build that, it'll give me the leverage that I'll need to succeed in any profession now. Like when I get jobs on social media and I meet with people, there's a respect already because they've already seen my content. I don't have to sell myself to them. I don't have to give them a resume per se, where I think a lot of people, they don't realize that though. They're like, that's why I'm on Twitter doing this stuff, to really motivate and encourage people. And over the past month, I've really seen a lot of people, trying to come into the space and do the same thing. And everybody's always like, oh man, everybody's imitating you. It's like, no, I don't give a shit, man. I think for me, it's like, I want to be entertained just like everybody else. I love seeing people's creativity, how their mind works. And I think we all have these great things in our brain. And that's kind of what socials become. That's like the new form of communication. Like back in like ancient Egypt, it was the hieroglyphics. Now it's like tweets and memes and emojis. And really, you can say more with an emoji than you can with a 100-word essay or whatever it may be. So
Facts.
For me, it's just showing those people. And you live in a world, especially in Hollywood, where you kind of get typecast. And I think that's the brilliance of Starberry. Like Starberry could easily, especially as a Black writer in the game, be like, oh, you can just do comedy. But no, he wrote and did a bunch of different stuff, wrote dramatic movies, wrote funny stuff. And for me, it's just funny seeing this dude, because it's not like he's a stand-up comedian or anything like that, but his comedy and his jokes and tone will make you fucking laugh, and then his dramatic stuff will make you cry, literally. And it's literally, I'm looking at this dude like, how do you get all these emotions out of these things? So to be, you know what I mean? Because that's, a lot of like, but you look at somebody like a Kevin Hart, people like that, and they have a lot of, skeletons and demons, that they're trying to get out. So these things are jokes. Like you look at Chappelle's last thing, yeah, you're laughing at points, but this is not like, this is like a therapy session, right? So it's being able to balance those two things and find the humor in life, and then, on the other side as well. So for me, it's just kind of learning that balance. I still got a lot to learn on the dramatic side, but I try to read as many great writers as possible, try and watch as many good shows as possible, watch good shows, watch bad shows, just watch as much content to consume and see. And then also really monitor social trends. How are people responding and reacting to things? What's going to be the next biggest meme? What is everybody talking about? Stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's vital in today's world, and really, distributing content. But also, they always talk about copycat leagues and stuff. And, it really feels like the world's kind of its own copycat league. You're kind of just building and branding ideas off each other. So I think it's incredibly vital. And I think social media is a good way to be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think you look at, that's the thing. You talk about copycat league, you look at like TikTok, right? And that's what TikTok is. Somebody does a dance, a million other people do the same dance. Everybody watches all 1 million of those dances because they want to see how everybody did their own interpretation. I think of Dogface. I think Dogface 420, whatever his name was, with the the cranberry juice and the skateboard.
Yeah.
That thing,
With
literally
Mac, yeah.
he goes from like just being like a TikTok kind of lower level TikTok kind of to like a global sensation now, where he's getting ocean spray deals and his life is completely. So I think, for me, it's just the excitement of looking at that stuff. So when I see like the copycats, whatever, like I encourage that thing. I think everybody, I like to say, I'm like Elon Musk. You can have the source code. That doesn't mean that you have the source. That doesn't mean you can accomplish what I do. And there's a lot more that goes into it than just knowing like what funny meme or whatever. It's knowing the emotions that you can get out of people and how to, appropriately word those, the proper copy, basically things like, I've worked on the social side, and there's probably like, 5 to 10 people at a particular company. Like your favorite sports site has at least, 5 to 10 people working a shift that have to do every single one of these things to manufacture the same thing that I can do in 5 minutes, on my couch, with my shoes off, just hanging out with my family, while I'm just saying, oh, this news just broke, bam, let me get this content out, or this joke out, or this piece of satire, whatever it may be.
So I guess, pivoting away from the entertainment industry, and Anthony, I apologize, I'm going to steal your question. This is a question that Anthony always asks. But
we're talking about how it's okay.
That's true. That's right. So this is a copycat question. We've seen that you've been involved with the Big 3. So what's the story behind that? I saw you were on Inside the Film Room. What is your relationship with the Big 3? How'd that get started?
For me, I've been a fan of the Big 3. I was initially skeptical when the league first announced, and there was no knock to Cube, because I know everything Cube does is top rate. It was just more, I know people have tried various versions of this in years past, and they always kind of just, didn't hit the mark. But when the league came out and they played the games and just the mentality and the style of play. And then seeing legends, I've always dreamed, like I think we see it with the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight that just happened. There's a market obviously for people who just want to watch their heroes kind of duke it out still. So to see guys like AI, Steven Jackson, just all these guys, Ryan Hollins, who's one teammate of mine at UCLA, see these guys kind of have it's almost like the PGA Senior Tour, like, what I mean? You get to see your like favorite guys go out there and hoop, but just the way that the games are structured, the performances, the production value, all that just came into play. And I think, it was just a top-notch league. So I'm like, as you know, I'm heavy in social. My thing with social is whatever's going on or trending, you can find me generally on those corners working them. I like, whatever the activity is that people are talking about. So I've seen the NBA was done, summer leagues were kind of doing their thing, but the Big Three was consistently, week to week giving you events. I think they were on back like Saturday, Sundays, whatever it was when they first came out. But it was just like, you had a good 2.5 hour chunk of getting to see legends play against each other and honestly be competitive. I'm seeing guys like Gary Payton talking shit and, like these dudes live for these moments. I don't like these dudes are so competitive. It doesn't matter if they're not playing in the league anymore, like whatever it is, a game of spades, dice. So to get them back on the court talking shit to each other where they have the ability to embarrass each other, for me is like, what more could you want as a basketball fan? So I'd actually put up some various content just throughout the season. But remember I was watching the game when obviously, Ricky Davis, who's a legend and one of the guys I deeply respect for everything. Like straight, he used to come play at UCLA in the summer. So I hate it had to be Ricky, but when Ricky got, it was just like that, that's kind of what it was. And I was on a group chat with a bunch of buddies, UCLA guys, and like, oh man, you gotta do something with this. So I'm thinking like, damn, this reminds me of Boys in the Hood. It was just that level. So I went home, edited together the clip real quick, put it out. Thing ended up, doing huge numbers. I think Cube ended up following me as a result of that. Oliver Maroney, who was working over there at the time, and Brett Marcellus, who's working over there. I think they reached out and they were just like, look, like, we're big fans of your work. Would you want to come in and just take a look at some clips? I'm like, yeah, shit, of course. Like, how could I not? So I think I love kind of underdogs. The Big Three's kind of an underdog league, but like off kilter, like, but give you some supplemental basketball content done in a professional way. So just a big fan of it. Definitely love what they're doing. I'm unfortunate that they obviously couldn't bring the league back due to the pandemic, but excited to see where the league goes in 2021. I'm sure they'll figure out some way to bring it back for next summer. And I think it'll be right around the time, hopefully, if the leadership that takes over can get us in the right direction around the time that we can all we'll probably still have to wear masks, but at least we can all be in an arena together, sharing moments and, being able to cheer, just kind of feeding off that energy again.
Yeah, and so then in terms of the future of the Big Three, are there this is another question that we love to ask guys, are there any guys, any of your favorite players you would love to see join the league?
I mean, I had this dream, obviously, before Kobe passed away, but you get the Kobe Shaq and then like Lamar Odom, just throw somebody, just throw a wild crew together. Obviously, that's not going to be the case, but I don't know, man. I love for me just seeing those guys that still love hoop and still take it serious, still have a way to go out there and do it. So I'm a big fan of everybody. Of course, I'd love to see LeBron there one day, deep down the line, like, get LeBron and AD back together in retirement and have them just dominate the Big Three for a bunch of years. But all those, I mean, for me, it's always like, for whatever reason, like you guys know, are hoops fans, like you develop like just like players that you love. They may not be the best player, the worst player, like guys like Alex Caruso that may not be, they may not be in the Hall of Fame, but just dudes you roll with. For me, it was like, Mark Madsen and Slava Medvedenko and just random people like that back in the day, like, Yinka Dari, just random humans, but that you roll with and you ride with. So to have those people, that caliber of dudes in retirement be able to have a second life, I think is awesome. So I'm rocking with it. I hope just, the league sustains and they keep kind of growing and building that fan base.
Yeah, 2019 was the summer of Joe Johnson, and I think – you could also say it was also the summer of Josiah Johnson. I feel like you're an accelerator to what the league was doing, or I don't know if people call you Joe, but, Joe Johnson. So I think 2019, there was a lot of good things, and I'm expecting a lot of big things in 2021. And, hey, we got one of those three. We got Lamar in there. I know it was only for a brief time, but, I know that before the league decided to kind of suspend the year, I know that he was expecting to come back. So hopefully, we see him back in 2021. I know he's looking to prove people wrong, and how even prove the league wrong and how, everything went about. But go ahead.
I was just say LO, one of my favorite players ever, one of the most versatile dudes, but just a good dude. I remember that candy segment they did on ESPN during the finals one year, where it's just like the obscene amount of candy the dude eats, and it's like now the NBA is not testing for weed. I only wish in his time that wouldn't have been the case, because I think everybody who watched that knew why he was eating so much candy, and it made, it's funny shit ever, but. That dude could play pretty much any position, literally came up as a point guard. So even getting to watch him in like high school and in college, like shit, bro. Like that guy's the man.
Yeah, sick. And it's cool that the NBA is doing that. I know the Big 3, is a big proprietor of CBD and kind of the player empowerment movement as well. And that's something I really love about the league, and how they just continue to progress. Now they're lowering the age limit here, so younger guys can join. Will and I have speculated a lot. Is this potentially a route that college seniors who go undrafted? Is this a route they take to maybe jump into the NBA and follow Joe Johnson and the same way he did and go into the Pistons? So, we'll see in 2021. Hopefully we get that reality show too. I know you can get a lot of good stuff out of there.
I mean, I think you get a crew of dudes who are literally at a point in their lives where they don't really give a fuck. Like, they're that's the other thing too. And to your point, the league has been super supportive of marijuana. I think anytime you go to a game, you know firsthand what's going down. Like, they're transforming, they're hotboxing NBA stadiums. So that's a big bonus and plus of the league as well. But shit, I'm excited for the future, and I hope that they can keep it all together, man. Because I think we're gonna need it. I think we've all been kind of locked in the house, or most of us. Some of us haven't been doing whatever the fuck they want, unfortunately, but most of us have been locked in the house. So we're gonna need that release as soon as we're able to kind of go do it. Whatever the criteria is, mask, social distance, whatever. Like, let me just scream in a stadium some more, talk some shit, or drink a beer, just like the simple things.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. So the internet, and I think NBA Twitter has dubbed you as the meme king, obviously because of the content you produce and how you built your own brand and to be able put out enjoyable content here. Looking back, on the past few you've done over the few years, I mean, what do you feel like? Is there a meme that is your favorite that you've posted that would go, top 5? And is there one that you wish maybe you could go back and be like, I wish I could have done that differently. I wish I would have waited a little bit to post that one.
One I would have done differently. I'll answer that one first. I did a Boys in the Hood, like Clippers Lakers thing a while ago, but it was like the scene where they meet on Crenshaw, and then it's like the rival gangs and doing it.
I remember that tweet. Yep.
So my biggest regret is I didn't put the Kawhi laugh underneath him doing that. I was kind of frantic. Like, I'll get excited when I'm making these memes sometimes, and like just forget like little key, because I think for me, like, this is like that one little key thing sometimes that'll just take it over the top. So that's the one there. And then I think the one that really set it off for me was I'm trying to think. Probably my favorite one. It was more just so I did a couple of songs. I did a song called Bronze Plan, which basically was a meme or a parody of Drake's God's Plan. So when that dropped, I was super excited about that. I was a little like, the song was great, but the production on it was absolutely garbage. I think I did it on my phone and some shit. So then when AD came to the Lakers, I did one using Cube's Today Was a Good Day, but called it 80s on the Way. But actually did some high level production for that. Got my friend Shay, who's a big time DJ, music artist. She cut it together for me and put it together. So that, I think, did a couple million views. But that was one like, Shannon Sharp, like Cube, like it was just Kyle Kuzma, just like the amount of people who reacted and responded to it was like, all right. I think for me, I think that shows the world too, because these things, like some of these things only take me, generally I try to be 10 minutes or less. If it's a song or shit like that, obviously that's a longer gig. But when you put them out and you see the reaction that they get, and you see the way, like, I do this shit in a vacuum, right? So I'm trying to guess if this is funny or not. Like, I don't really show a lot of people my work till I put it out. So I'm writing the song, doing all this shit, or putting a meme together, and I don't really get to show anybody till I drop it. So I've had, this is the thing, I'll share with you guys. Like, I had a period probably like 2019, like February, March, where I was trying to do like voiceover videos, just testing out a bunch of different material, but was just getting my ass handed to me. Like, fucking Twitter was just fucking, SpongeBob memes, tomatoes, like fucking whatever, you name it, whatever the slander was, I was eating that shit every single day. But was still getting a lot of love and shit too. But it was kind of like, I'm glad they didn't have like the quote tweet feature then, where you can see how many quote tweets a tweet has.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't even want to go back and look now, just because. But it made me mentally tough, and it made me realize every time I come to the plate, I got to come with some fucking fire shit, or I'm gonna get embarrassed, right? The Twitter doesn't give a fuck. Like, if you're not funny, they will quickly fucking tell you and rip you to shreds. Like, they have no heart. Like, I love Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson gets knocked out by Jake Paul. Fucking all hell is going to break loose.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But this is this is the game, and it's not like, and everybody's like, oh, I think Floyd Mayweather was like, you know, don't pick on Nate. He's a great dude. It's like, nobody's picking on Nate. We love Nate. If Nate would have knocked out Jake Paul, I had Jake Paul knockout memes ready to go. More of those than Nate, to be real, because I was fucking riding with Nate. But we just see like those moments, like they'll make whole people just break character. People like even at higher levels now, celebrities, whatever, will see that shit. And normally in years past where they would have just kept it quiet, like even they're finding the meme off, like, oh shit, like, you know what I mean? But so you just see the way the game
Curry was getting in on it. That was the most surprising thing to me when Curry was getting in on it.
Donovan Mitchell was going in. I mean, I was honestly shocked to see some of the dudes in the NBA community. I was like, I know a lot of people were riding with Nate, but like you said, Twitter is ruthless, man. I mean, it doesn't matter if it really doesn't matter, you know, if you're trying to bring whatever you're posting to Twitter, it's got to be what you're going for: funny, dramatic, serious, whatever. Because if it's not, like you said, they'll hand it to you.
Like, I played with Matt Barnes at UCLA. Matt has been, you know, Matt, like you said, you love the Derek Fisher episode. The thing I love about Matt is so, he doesn't give a fuck about it. You know, none of this shit can get to him. Like, he knows the things that are important to him, his family, his kids. Like, he knows what's important to him. So he doesn't let it bother him. But he made a video for Nate after it happens. Basically, just like, look, you're going to get roasted. Just, it is what it is. We still love you. And I think that's the sentiment. Like, some of these memes, like, I tell people, like, because people will be like, oh, man, like, you're an asshole, woo, woo, woo. But I'm like, yo, I'm reactionary. Like, if LeBron loses, I have memes for LeBron losing. He's my favorite player ever. I don't want to post them, of course, but the game is the game. Like, people need entertainment. I think that's one of the reasons people respect me, because they know, you know, like, I got Clippers fans and some Warriors fans on my neck now, but it's like, whoever's deserving of slander will get slander. If LeBron is deserving of slander, he will get slandered. Like, that's just the rules and regulations of the game. So, you know, thankfully, the Lakers win championships, so that doesn't happen. But if the Clippers blow a 3-1 lead, we're going to address this. It's going to be brought up to the end of time. We're still telling Warriors jokes, and they did that shit 4 years ago. Like, it never goes away. I'll tell Warriors blew a 3-1 lead jokes probably on my deathbed. One of my last dying words will be a Warriors 3-1 joke. Like, because why? Because this shit is funny. I mean, that's life.
I had a sign in my dorm room that said Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. And I would look at it every morning, and I said, if the Warriors can blow a 3-1 lead, I can do anything. And that was my motivation. That's how I got hyped. But that's the truth, but it is.
Bro, when LeBron won that championship, I don't think I've ever, and to your point, that was the summer before Legends came out, and it was kind of fucked up because LeBron won, and it's like anything's possible, and then like, you're right, motherfucker, like 4 years later, or like a couple months later, Trump wins, and it's like, oh shit, like anything really is possible. Like, we said that, we really fucking meant like anything is possible, like, so. But to see that happen, and yeah, like, we still talk about that shit now. So I think there's a lot of sensitive fan bases out there. And I used to be at that too. But if you're in the NBA Twitter community, there's going to be slander here your way. Some of my best friends are Clippers fans, Warriors fans, like Warriors World, you know, one of my best friends, like, you know what I mean, in the social game. We hit each other all the time. Like, you know, I may put up a tweet making fun of the Warriors. He'll fucking respond back. But he also knows, like, when they won a championship, I had to fucking rock a Warriors World shirt because I had to pay respect to the fucking OGs. Like, that's how the game works. So.
Sensitivity has definitely increased here in the new era of 2020, but it never gets old to see when someone get roasted for something that goes down that you're just not expecting. Like that Nate fight, just, you know, I don't want to harp on it too much, but a little bit unexpected, you know. I mean, I know that Jake Paul had the size advantage or whatever, but, you know, you're just thinking world-class athlete. He's always the underdog, has always proven people wrong. I really thought Nate was going to go out there and do something just a little bit more.
This is the thing. If Nate was fighting him in like UFC style or whatever, I think Nate probably gives him that work, even though he's 3 inches, just because he's like a pit bull dog and he's going to be relentless. When you get into like the technical side of boxing, like Jake Paul does that. You know what I mean? Like, he trains, he lives the boxer lifestyle. So when he's coming to the ring, it's as a boxer. So, you know, Nate kind of learned quickly, like, you know, you don't have a reach, size advantage, weight advantage. Like, what are you supposed to do out there? So I'm kudos to him for even taking the fight, but also like, why the fuck did you take the fight? Like,
you just had Jake Paul on Dunk Bait there, didn't you?
Yeah, we brought him on. We had him on a couple months ago, and I remember I asked him because I was just like, you know, I know this is pre-LeBron winning a championship, but I know, like, you know, who wants to fight LeBron? I just wanted to try and stir some shit. But thankfully, Jake was smart, and he backed up. And obviously, LeBron got like 8 inches on him and fucking like, you know, 70 pounds. So I don't think that'd be a fight anybody would want to watch, except for maybe Nate Robinson.
Well, now he's calling out Conor McGregor and stuff, so we'll see, you know, if he's really about that life for sure. I mean,
that'll be interesting. That'll be fun to watch.
That would definitely be.
Triller
cool.
got $50 from me. I know that. Like I could have got the illegal feed. I could have did all the stuff that people do on the internet when they don't want to pay for shit. I was like, no, I got to pay for this shit. Like this is, I gotta have respect. Because this is some of the best, most entertaining. It was like versus, but these dudes were fighting each other. It was awesome. Like, what else do you want?
Snoop alone was worth the $50.
Man, 100%.
That was a great night on the internet. I wasn't even going into like I'm a tweet about this shit, but it was just like, wait, Nate Robinson's fighting, and this can go a lot of different ways. So let me just monitor the situation because this thing might go, and then it happened. It's like, damn.
Snoop should have got that Romo contract after that fight. He was killing it.
Don't be surprised to see Snoop calling Big 3 games down the line. I think he's gonna, I wouldn't say it'd be far-fetched for him to join somebody's announcing staff or like once a week do like Lakers games on Spectrum or whatever. I can see it in the cards for this dude because we need that perspective. We just need somebody just talking shit and having a good time.
He's done Kings games in the past, right? Did LA Kings for a little bit?
He did. I think maybe Kings done like Lakers. He's showed up on like
Lakers.
Local broadcasts. Mm-hmm. Like a Lakers Spurs guy, I think maybe back in the day, but like he's popped up every once in a while, but it's always for like 4 or 5 minutes, just kind of a, second quarter, third quarter, not really like a key point in the game type of deal. Like I want to see him like, last shot, like lining up. Like I need to see what Snoop call is.
100%. So Will and I, we're obviously Who's fans. We have our NBA teams, or more so for me, it's NBA players that we really love. And we keep track of it throughout the season because we're looking for, maybe some older guys or guys that we think have potential for the Big 3. And we obviously have the season coming up at a different time. Look, going into the season with it coming up here in a few weeks, in the NBA, do you have a dark horse team that you're kind of intrigued by or you really like to make maybe a run further than expected?
I mean, look, we look at what the Suns were able to do in the bubble, and they would seem to be with CP3 coming and just kind of what he brings to the table. And him getting booked, I think, and Aiden to a whole new level if they can, if their relationships are good and things like that. Suns, to me, I think Blazers, obviously, they fortified and got tough. Like, a lot of teams made a lot of moves, and I think we were all kind of focused on Lakers, Clippers, which Clippers, they were up 3-1. Like, Clippers faced the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. Who knows what happens? I think as Lakers fans, we were happy to have to duck that fade. Not to, we didn't have to – like, wait, we don't even have to play the Clippers now? What? This is like
the matchup we're all anticipating never happened.
Yeah. So, but so you're still talking about a Kawhi and a PG who literally have something to prove now and a chip on their shoulder. You got Giannis in the East who's literally going to be pissed off and bitter. Let's see what the Bucks are able to do. Hopefully he kind of maintains his focus and doesn't, and can lead that team back to where they deserve to be. Because again, you're talking about the teams, the marquee matchup. I think it was going to be. I don't want to say anybody hoped for it. I think everybody probably hoped for Lakers Bucks, but Clippers Bucks was what on paper was supposed to be. And those teams didn't get worse, I would say. Like, they still have, they still made improvements. Like bringing Ibaka to the Clippers is a fucking huge get, replacing Trez who came to the Lakers, us losing Dwight. And I know Trez is kind of supposed to, but Dwight, I don't think, is a beast. Like what 6'11", like what he was doing on the court, literally punking dudes, like, getting in dudes' heads, like, and he only do it for 15, 20 minutes, even got in foul trouble. It's like no big deal. But I think for me, the Suns kind of, Suns or Blazers of that team. I wouldn't count out the Rockets just for what, I'm curious to see what John Wall and Harden looks like together. I think they're not Steph and Clay, obviously, in terms of like shooting prowess and ability, but in terms of bucket getting and what they can potentially accomplish as two dudes spacing out the floor. Like, I think I'm curious and interested to see what that will look like. Don't know if it'll get them over the hump, but I'm just excited, man, to see basketball again. I don't think, for me, the Lakers, I'm a big Lakers guy. I don't think we see the Lakers finish first in the West this year, but not because they're not the best team, just because I don't anticipate LeBron and AD really kind of getting things together till, late January, February, then maybe even after like the first break. But, we're going to see this season is going to be completely fucked up and crazy because they're not going to be in a bubble. I mean, we're looking at how COVID's kind of fucking up the NFL and they're only playing one game a week. Yeah. Where you're talking about 3 games, what happens now if, 5 guys on the team end up getting it. Now you can only bring out 7, it's like what caliber and quality of basketball are they willing to stoop to basically fulfill the TV contract? Like we've already seen it on the NFL side, and those are weekly games where, I think it was like Kendall Hinton starting for the Broncos. It's just like, nobody needs to be put in a position like that. Like, it's not fair to him. It's not fair to the team. It's not fair to fans who are, paying money. It's not fair to the TV and advertisers either. But I understand, like, they gotta run it. They got to get their bag. So, we'll see how it pans out. Hoping everybody stays safe and healthy and we get this vaccine moving and shaking. But even still, like, you know, the Rona is the Rona.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it was even tough watching that Steelers-Ravens game on a Wednesday. We'll probably never talk about another Wednesday football game ever again.
Yeah, honestly, I was just thinking as that was going on, like, it's funny you say that, because as that game happened, it was like, you know, before it was like Monday, Thursday, you know, Saturday, Sunday were like NFL days. Now it's like you can get this shit any point. Like, I forget what college, like somebody used to play on Wednesdays, fucking
used to be the MAC
conference. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I think they still do, but it's like now you're getting that type of, it's just like the league is just giving you anything. I remember it's like 12:30 in the afternoon on the Pacific. And I'm like, wait, the game started? I'm thinking in my head it's like 3:40 Pacific, which was still early. I'm like, oh damn, it's 12:40 in this shit. Like, this is embarrassing. I know motherfuckers want to watch Dr. Phil or whatever they want to watch that comes on there. You got a lot of pissed off, like, you know, Ellen and Dr. Phil fans. Like, wait, what the fuck is going on?
That's funny. All right, so the big thing that I wanted to talk to you about was I talked about, Anthony already knows where I'm going with this. We had on our good friend Liam last week. Liam's father wrote for Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World.
Okay.
So I had to pitch sort of this television idea to him, but I feel like now that you're here, it would behoove me not to get your opinion on it. As someone who's been in the show business game, let me know if you think this is going to be a success or not. So my mentality is basically this: a lot of the really successful things in Hollywood right now are stuff that was brought back for like nostalgia, right? So like we got Star Wars, they're bringing back, you know, I think like there's a Power Rangers reboot coming on. The only difference is now it's gritty. Right now it's for adults. So for me, I know one of my favorite shows going on right now is The Mandalorian, right? And it's sort of like Star Wars, but it's gritty but like not really, you know, for kids, but you know, everybody loves it. It's been super successful. And for me, my favorite thing growing up was Pokemon. So I think if you made this sort of Mandalorian-esque Pokemon show, like I said, I think we pan in first episode of this like nice village in the mountains, and then all of a sudden a Charizard just comes down and burns the whole thing down, or maybe just like this little lake village, and then like a Gyarados pops up and just completely, you know, ruins everything, and then, you know, these people are dealing with these like basically these unstoppable monsters just like running around. I think it would be extremely successful.
Well, I mean, you're on the right path. Pokemon obviously is a humongous entity. I think, you know, the game and all the accidents that were caused with people on their phone, you know, getting hit by cars and all types of crazy shit. So definitely a lane for it. I would be, if you should probably reach out to whoever the production company is, because you're giving away this information. I know somebody is going to watch this pod and write it down, and you're going to see your show. Yeah. You're going to see your Pokemon show. So definitely, I think, get on that as quick as possible.
Okay. If this thing starts getting going and I'm hiring a writing staff, are you interested in the head writing position?
I would definitely be interested.
All right. Dope.
Hit me up. Let me know.
That's all I needed to hear. That's all I needed to hear.
Now go get it.
This man's about to start posting more Pokemon content than he is Big 3 content. Thanks.
It's Pokemon.
About to completely rebrand the page. It'll be Poke News and Pokemon movie trailers and stuff. All right. So we obviously had the holidays coming up. You know, we probably just had the biggest sales on the internet this past weekend with COVID and everything, keeping everybody inside. Figured I asked this biggest steal. Do you have any great deals that you got from Black Friday, Cyber Monday this past week, I guess?
I was really packing on the pounds prior to like March 2020. So I used the pandemic to refocus and revitalize. So I got like a lot of like workout gear. So I got a bunch of stuff from Nike that was appropriately priced. It was nice to get some good come ups. I've also been doing a thing where I just buy like, you know, random people on social I see like that have products or merch or things like that. So just been grabbing a bunch of like cool sweatshirts, but also got some relationships with some spots like Golden Knight Graphics, who does a lot of Lakers themed content, and Can't Beat LA, who does a lot of like Lakers, Dodgers, like cool, like just fucking cool ass shit, man, like cool ass sweatshirts, shirts, and all types of stuff. So like Golden Knight Graphics, every time he posts a design, he'll like post a design, but it's available Friday, and it's like, all right, take my money now. Like, stop wasting my time. What are we doing? I'm sold. Like, where can I give you money? Like, how soon can I get this? So for me, it's like just to support like people that are coming up in the game and to see them kind of follow their trajectory kind of the same way that I've been able to use social to build up my stuff. So I like to support people in that space and try to be in as like, supportive as possible and help them out whenever I can and take some of the bags, kind of like a Robin Hood for social, like take the bags I get from gigs and then redistribute it back to the social media creators and content people out there that are out here getting it.
I think we've seen a lot of that in 2020, especially with everything going on. I know a lot of people were supporting Black-owned businesses and in small businesses, and I just think that's really cool and everything. Last thing before you go, I know you mentioned you had a couple projects going on. Anything you can talk about or anything you got in the works that you want to tell listeners or maybe people watching this? Or is it on the hush hush?
Make sure you check out Colin in Black and White. I don't know when it's coming out, obviously, with the pandemic, but, it's going to be stellar television. Got some other stuff in the works. I'll just tell you guys that I got a couple of animated projects, a couple of dramas, and obviously some comedy. So hoping that some of these things take off soon, working with some really talented people and some big name people in the game and hopeful that we can get it out because we're super excited to show the world what we've been cooking up.
100%. Well, we appreciate your time. We'll be on the lookout for all that stuff, and we appreciate you joining us. And hopefully, maybe we can run this back again when the Big 3 season's going on. Maybe we got another Ricky Davis, Brandon Rush type meme on the way here.
Let me know, fellas. I'm down to come back on whatever. Long live the Big 3.
Just don't do the OG Ricky Davis like that again. We gotta get maybe someone new in there.
Bro, no disrespect to Ricky. He's one of my favorite hoopers ever. So I hate it had to be him. He's still a legend. Everybody rock with Ricky.
Yeah, it just synced up too nicely. Well, we appreciate you again and look forward to see what you got going.
All right, thanks, fellas.
All right, guys. So that was our interview with Josiah. We hope you all liked it. Special thanks again for him for coming on. We really do appreciate it when somebody of that magnitude and who has that type of following and that experience comes on. It's just really cool to talk about him and his journey. So we really hope to have him on again in the future. For everybody who listened, thank you. If you're on Dash, as always, we appreciate it. Podcast form, as always, thank you guys. On YouTube, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials. It's all at Fourth Man Pod everywhere, right, Anthony?
Yes, sir.
Same at everywhere. We made it super easy.
4TH Man Pod.
Thank you very much. We will see you guys next episode.